Ambassador Kale adjusted the collar of his synth silk tunic, a nervous tick that betrayed the calm he projected. The observation deck of the neutral station, named the Quiet Eye, afforded a breathtaking view of the swirling nebula beyond the viewport. But Kale's eyes were fixed on the gathering below. The air hummed with a low frequency, the sound of a dozen different species trying to coexist. The Kthar, crystalline beings of fractal geometry, refracted light into rainbows. The Vok, a species of sentient gas, drifted in slow, lazy currents. And then there were the others. All here, all waiting. And all here for him. For humanity. The weight of it was suffocating. They called themselves the First Children, a title Kale had found both flattering and deeply unsettling. They spoke of humanity's ascendant spark, our unforeseen mastery of the fundamental chaos. They believed our wars, our art, our very unpredictability was a form of galactic enlightenment they had spent eons trying to cultivate. It was a beautiful, terrifying mistake. Kale's comms unit chirped softly. It was his aide, Jory. Ambassador, the Vorlons are here. The name made the air in Kale's lungs turn to ice. The Vorlons were not here to observe. They were here to judge. The Vorlons did not walk. They manifested. One moment, the far end of the Grand Hall was empty. The next, a towering column of pure, crackling energy stood where they had been. They were beings of contained lightning, their forms shifting between a dozen impossible geometries, a low, resonant hum emanating from their cores that vibrated in Kale's teeth. The Kthar and Vok fell silent, their own energies dimming in deference. The Vorlons were the ancient rivals of the First Children, the self-appointed arbiters of galactic order. They saw the First Children's worship of humans as a cosmic perversion. You are a flaw. A voice, not of sound but of pure, directed will, echoed in Kale's mind. It was the Vorlon emissary, a being known only as the Harmonizer. Your species thrives on entropy. You are a wound in the fabric of reality, not a light. Kale felt a cold sweat prickle on his brow. He was supposed to be a diplomat, not a theologian defending his species' right to be gloriously, beautifully messy. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words died in his throat. How could he explain the beauty of a flawed system to a being that saw only perfection as its goal? The summit had devolved into a stalemate. The Harmonizer's presence was a suffocating blanket of order, pressing down on every delegate. Its arguments were flawless, logical, and utterly terrifying. It spoke of humanity's reckless expansion, our violent impulses, our disregard for the delicate balance of the cosmos. The First Children tried to counter, their voices trembling with faith. But their art, one pleaded. Their capacity for self-sacrifice. The Harmonizer dismissed it all. Chaos is not creativity. It is merely the absence of design. Kale watched the exchange, his mind racing. Logic was failing. Faith was failing. He needed something else. Something the Vorlons could not compute. He thought of his aide, Jory, a brilliant young woman who could rewire a fusion core with a paperclip and a prayer. He thought of his own grandfather, who had once fixed a starship's navigation array by tapping on it with a wrench and listening to the hum. Humanity's strength wasn't in our order or our power. It was in our ability to take the broken, the chaotic, the nonsensical, and make it work. He had to show them, not tell them. Kale stood up, his chair scraping against the polished floor with a sound that was jarringly loud in the tense silence. All eyes turned to him. The Vorlons' shifting energies seemed to pause, their attention focused. Ambassador, the Harmonizer's voice echoed, laced with disdain. Do not add your chaotic noise to this debate. Kale ignored it, walking toward the center of the hall. He stopped a few feet from the Vorlon column and held up his hands, palms open. You speak of order, Kale said, his voice surprisingly steady. You speak of design. You see a system and you see perfection. I see a system and I see potential. He closed his eyes, not in prayer, but in concentration. He began to hum. It was not a melody, not a tune. It was a discordant, atonal sequence of notes, a snippet of a forgotten lullaby from his childhood, a piece of a commercial jingle he'd heard that morning, a low thrum he'd felt in the station's engines. He hummed them all at once, layering them, letting them clash and bleed into one another. The Vorlons' hum faltered. Their perfect geometries wavered. They were beings of pure, structured energy, and Kale was feeding them raw, unstructured sound. He was not praying. He was not commanding. He was simply doing. He was taking the chaos of his own mind and pouring it into their perfect, ordered world. And in that moment, as the Vorlons recoiled from the beautiful, incomprehensible noise, Ambassador Kale understood. Our divinity was never in our strength. It was in our glorious, unending, and utterly improvisational flaw.